In today's video, we'll learn how to exercise self-control and live a better life. I must cut down on my drinking. I will quit my toxic job. I'm setting my alarm earlier to do some yoga before work. Many people make such declarations in complete sincerity, but never really come around to executing them. We thoughtlessly pour the next glass of wine. We never write a resignation letter. We reach for the snooze button. So, why do we fail to exercise self-control against harmful habits? Whether we call it a weakness of will or lack of self-control, at times like these, our judgment about what's best and our motivation to do it come apart. Be it a temptation, a habit we find hard to change, or a problematic emotion that keeps us stuck, most of us have been there. Although this is a common human experience, philosophers such as Plato have often found it puzzling, even impossible. Plato explains that people act against their better judgment by suggesting that there is an appetitive part of the soul, represented as an unruly horse, which strains away from reason. Aristotle agreed that a strong desire could cloud judgment. Still, he also believed that the part of us producing the wayward motivation was not wholly irrational and could be made to listen to reason. It is striking that both philosophers talk of parts of the self. Any puzzlement about how we can both want and not want something is lessened if we think of the self not as a singular and unified agent, but as made up of different parts with different interests. Some people are more concerned with immediate gratification, others with future considerations, which can clash. American philosopher Alfred Meillet helps dissolve another seeming paradox: how a weak-willed action can be rational and irrational. It's reasonable in the sense that it's done for a reason. It need not be a weighty one and could be nothing but the lure of sensual gratification. Whatever it is, it's not the reason we judge the most persuasive and conclusive. In this sense, our actions are irrational. Meillet suggests that several factors can contribute to our acting against our better judgment. A crucial one is how near we are to the source of reward. We tend to value closer rewards more than distant ones. For example, the rewards of sticking to a diet are uncertain, while those of eating a brownie are immediate and certain. In this competition, the immediate wins often, even though we realize that the longer-term gains are more valuable. We can often rationalize this by telling ourselves and others that it's not that we lack self-control. We just changed our mind. I genuinely did want to go on a diet, but then genuinely wanted to eat cake instead. But the weakness of will is different from changing our minds. A helpful question is whether the weak-willed option is chosen only when we are close to it. If we wouldn't choose it at a distance, it's probably a case of weakness of will. So, what can we do if we lack self-control in some area of our life? What we shouldn't do is to rely on willpower. That would imply there's a thing called willpower that we either do or don't have. According to British philosopher Gilbert Ryle, the concept of will, like that of the mind itself, is an illegitimate and unhelpful way of confusing a capacity with a thing. A weak-willed person, Gilbert says, is easily distracted or disheartened, apt to convince himself that another time will be more suitable, or that the reasons for undertaking the task were not after all very strong. A strong-willed person, conversely, can stick to tasks without being deterred or diverted. We need to facilitate our ability to do this. The first thing to do is to check that the decision to do or stop doing something is sound and considers all relevant factors. Is leaving our job the best thing for us if we look at the situation in the round? Then we need to understand the particular motivation leading us astray. What is it exactly? It could be fear, for instance. Is it appropriate? When does it show up? And how does it affect our actions? Finally, we should commit to the option we have judged best at a time when the wayward motivation is not influencing us. We need to think ahead, identify situations of potential backsliding, and take concrete steps to stop ourselves from acting against our better judgment. For instance, not having unhealthy foods in the house removes temptation. We can raise the stakes by making failure to meet our commitment costly. Making a public promise, for example, motivates us not to lose face. The most effective strategy is to make failure to stick with our resolution impossible. A paradigmatic example of this comes from the Odyssey. On his travels, Ulysses is warned by the sorceress Circe about the danger of sailing near the Sirens' island. The Sirens bewitch any mortal who approaches them with their song, leaving corpses heaped up all round them, moldering upon the bones as the skin decays. Ulysses wants to hear this magical music but cannot rely on willpower to stop being lured to the island. His solution is to physically prevent himself and his crew from being bewitched. He is told, "You must stop the ears of all your crew with sweet wax that you have kneaded so that none of the rest may hear the song." He must be bound hand and foot as you stand upright against the mast stay, with the rope ends tied to the mast itself. Next time you feel in danger of backsliding, think of Ulysses. There are many things in life we wish were not true. Perhaps our partner is unfaithful. We are not good enough to become a professional singer, or we don't have enough money to get through the year. We are remarkably good at convincing ourselves that such inconvenient truths are not true, though when we look back with a clearer head, we often admit that we were kidding ourselves. When faced with the effort and discomfort of changing well-worn habits, we can easily convince ourselves that a bit of top-up of wine is acceptable on this occasion, or that the ice cream is irresistible. If you think about it, this is a puzzling phenomenon. There is a difference between lying to oneself and lying to others. The ordinary liar lies in full knowledge of the facts, which they hide from another person. But hiding the truth from oneself is not straightforward, as I must know in my capacity as a deceiver the truth which is hidden from me in my capacity as the one deceived. How is this possible? As Sigmund Freud suggested, our unconscious might be playing tricks on us. However, thinking about it in these terms does not solve the problem. It simply shifts it back to one level. This is because the censor, whose job is to decide what to allow and what not to allow into consciousness, still has to know something to unknow it. So, how do we fool ourselves? Not only do we lack evidence for a particular belief, but there is evidence against it, which we would see if we took the time to look. For example, it's not only that we have no good reason to think the object of our desires has feelings for us, but it's pretty clear they find us a bit irritating. So why don't we see this? The reason is that we so want something to be true that we attend only to the evidence in favor of it, ignoring anything that could count against it. We don't do it intentionally, it's just that our desire clouds our attention. When self-deceived or in bad faith, we deny our fundamental freedom and treat ourselves as objects without agency rather than human beings capable of choice. We show clear signs of this when we cling to a fixed view of ourselves and say things like, "It's just the way I am," or "There's nothing I can do about it." If the fog of self-deception cleared, we would realize that we are responsible for how we act, even if we did not choose to be in a situation in the first place. It might still seem puzzling how we can pull the wool over our own eyes. We can make sense of this if we think of ourselves as made up of several subselves, each with different desires and motivations. Some of them may prioritize knowing the truth over believing a comforting untruth, but they may be slumbering and we may need to wake them up. To do this, it would help to get into the habit of asking ourselves why we believe what we believe, considering whether it's reasonable, and systematically seeking evidence that challenges it. Self-deception is an automatic, unconscious response to uncomfortable facts, and it takes deliberate and conscious effort to overcome it. Thanks for watching till the end. Kindly support my work by liking the video and subscribing if you are new. Till next time, bye.